Guys, have you ever witnessed a funnier climax to a win ever? I mean, all of us here watching the game were discussing okay, there must be some calculus going on in KL Rahul's mind. Bhai, that I need to find a four from somewhere and then hit a six. And what if he actually times a four so great that it ends up being a six, and it was a six, and he was he was on his you know he was in a squatting position, and we were literally rolling on the floor laughing कि भाई क्या क्या हुआ ये मतलब it's like KL Rahul would have been wondering कि यार मेरी टाइमिंग इतनी अच्छी कैसे है क्यों है.
But है तो है. I think we discussed about KL being very key. I'm just very happy that at least some of those filters will be taken care of today. कि भाई under pressure ये वो सब. Let's get on with it. And of course, there is lots to discuss. So let's go in that order.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, guys who are joining us for the first time, I'm Somesh Agarwal. I've been joined by Nikhil and Gurkirat as always to review what was an absolutely fascinating game. Although it actually turned out to be a damn squib towards the later half of the second innings. But to begin with, I mean, what was that, guys? And how worried were you after India got off to that start, which was actually the worst start ever for India? This is the lowest they scored after 3 wickets have fallen. This is the first time three of the top four got out for a duck. So I'll start with you, Gurkirat. How sort of nervous were you when that happened?
I think actually after what happened in that last semi-final 5 for 3, my first reaction was laughing at the situation. I was like, yeah, 5 for 3. You think if 5 for 3 se bura kya hoga? Like what can be worse than that? And then you see this. So my first, I don't know. Matlab, maybe it's due to watching a lot of cricket. Experiencing a lot of cricketing heartbreaks, that my first reaction was laughing at the situation. I couldn't help it. It's just like ye kya ho gaya? So but yeah, I think but the only moment I felt a little nervous, or I was like, oh, was that when that ball went up in the air. And we'll have to thank Alex Carey. You can always trust two guys who've played for Delhi Capitals to mess up in that kind of a situation. So that's what they did.
Yeah, man. I mean, and
You have to look at that combination, RCB and Delhi Capitals.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's in my memory, this is the worst drop by Australian fielder ever. Maybe Nikhil कहीं से कोई ऐसा random example निकाल के लाएगा जो about a game that I have not seen. Because I mean, these are the kind of catches that Australian fielders will just take in their sleep. I don't know how Mars dropped it, but thankful that he did, because you know this was a game where I thought, and actually all of us thought, that maybe this is a game where India would not need Kohli. But how wrong were we? I mean, at the end of the day, any big game, if it's an ODI, India will actually need Virat Kohli to be clicking at all points. What we just I'll just calm my emotions down and start to take this forward. What we saw today was the highest partnership for India versus Australia in World Cups. So kudos to both KL and Virat. They overtook what Ajay Jadeja and Robin Singh put together in the '99 World Cup. And I watched that game, even though those they were scoring guns. It was the game was foregone conclusion then. India was already miles behind. Guys, what impressed you the most about that partnership? We'll start with Nikhil, you first, and then Gurkirat can add his thoughts as well.
Yeah, I felt it was the calm nature, at least from both ends in terms of this. There was that drop, but otherwise, you did not see a lot of harakiri or wanting to come down to slap something, or losing your shape when you're just trying to get into your game. So I think they were very assured, measured. And again, I've said this in the past about Kale as well, that defensively he's still very good. You have to get a very good ball to get past him. You rarely see him play a shot that you think, oh, bhai, how has this guy played a shot like that? So I think that is something that really came through. And again, he had a few good knocks under pressure in a chase earlier in the Asia Cup as well. So you felt that okay, he's not someone who's going to take that charge. With Virat, you felt that he wanted to get going. There were a couple of on-the-up shots attempted versus Josh as well, but then he got that very good drive uh, past mid-off, which maybe calmed him down a bit more. But then you always had that one chance you felt was coming. It came, and it also came against Hazelwood, someone who eventually he got out to, and he possibly has the worst numbers against him. But again, वो matchup हम बाद में discuss करेंगे. But I think it was just the calmness and the ease with which they took on the bowling. We saw Green coming in. He bowled a good first over, but second over he had bowled two. Second or third over he bowled couple very full. Kohli hit him for 2 boundaries, and then Zampa comes on. He bowls a bit short. KL cuts him for 2 boundaries, and then the full one is driven to the covers. So I think India were very good at seizing those small moments, and that really deflated Australia. That okay, now this is also not working because at one end Maxwell was keeping it tight, but there was just no pressure from the other end.
Proper partnership batting, as they say. Gurkirat, any further thoughts than a comprehensive review by Nikhil about the partnership?
Yeah, just one bit. This innings was also sort of an example as to why KL the opener clicked in South Africa and in England, because if you watched him bat in the first 10 overs, he hardly played a ball away from his body. Those two drives that he hit, which went for four, his feet, his front foot was right up there along with his bat. There was hardly any gap between the bat and the pad, which we talk in terms of the conventional technique. So, or when you talk about driving or playing shots in test matches. So a complete innings in that regard. I mean, that period needed that defensive technique, and KL showed that. I mean, I was really impressed with that bit. And once post that 10th or the 12th over mark, then he looked far more assured at the crease, and it was easy for him from there on.
Actually, we do have the KL's wagon wheel here for everyone, and I think this is all we need to know to try and summarize KL's knock. If you look at all the runs that he scored behind the square on the offside and slightly in front of it as well, is what he did throughout that partnership. Those two red dots, those sixes came a little later, but this is where he was so good. I mean, even a little bit of a width by pace and spin, he was no, he just pounced on it. And like Gurkirat said, those drive pass points for four is essentially how he got his 100 at Lords as well. So I think we usually have that segment around the player of the game sort of thing. But I think if all of us are in agreement that it is KL Rahul, then maybe we can move on to other discussions.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think 97s का होता ही है. I think couldn't not talk about के you always have a 97 doing very well for India in a World Cup game.
Absolutely. I mean, 97 is. I mean, we always will take a 97 over 100.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I'll move on to a section which I particularly like the most, which is the turning point of the game. Yeah. So Gurkirat, I'll give you the first go here. What do you think was the turning point during India's chase?
I think there are in India's chase. Okay.
Yeah, match का तो हम mid innings में discuss. First innings का we actually did discuss in the first inning as well.
India's
in the
chase,
mid innings, yeah.
India's chase, it's hard to look past that drop catch, because I mean, from there on, what also happened was that Kohli also became a lot more tighter. So once that happened, it just became difficult for Australia to get through. And like how you tweeted that, Australia looking for another wicket-taking option, and Cummins being the captain was what sort of holding Australia back. Somesh, you tweeted that, and I'm in agreement with that, because I don't think Cummins also bowled a lot, and I don't think he bowled particularly well. But I think what also did not help Australia was the pace at which Zampa was bowling. We discussed this in the mid-innings review. Whenever I saw the speedometer when Zampa was bowling, it was above 92, 92, 93, 91. I don't remember seeing that speedometer below 90 for Zampa. So I think that also did not help Australia, because the pace was there and there was slight dew. I feel there was maybe the pitch changed a little bit, but I think just the pace that Zampa bowled at made things far easier for both the batters.
Yeah, I mean, Nikhil, I mean, there are a couple of instances in my mind which sort of shifted the momentum of the innings. I remember Kohli hitting Cameron Green for 2 fours, and then, of course, KL Rahul cutting Zampa, and which that was for me the turning point of the innings, right? I mean, after that, it was all India. Do you think that it was a drop catch that made the biggest impact, or do you feel there was some other momentum shifter?
No, I think the drop catch definitely played a part, because then you would have had Hardik coming in, and then with the batting that you have to follow, it would have still been a bit more trickier. The moment of KL Rahul cutting Zampa and getting those three boundaries were where you felt कि यहाँ से they should still be able to see through no matter what happens. So that was that moment for me कि you felt कि हाँ यहाँ से it should be India's game. But when that drop happened, you felt कि मेरे को तो 2015 की याद आ गई. So I was like, ये लोग एक ही वर्ल्ड कप गेम में सारे वर्ल्ड कप गेम का
मजा दे रहे
Nostalgia.
nostalgia thing है. And eventually you ended up with a 97 also. So again,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
okay, एक गेम में सब वर्ल्ड कप ले लो. बहुत ज्यादा हो रही हो खाली है.
Yeah, I mean, interesting, and it's actually so Kohli was actually not just a bit very lucky today, but it's
Yeah,
fair after the kind
yeah,
of years that he saw,
yeah,
a couple of years back, and it's also for a change. It's good to have someone else apart from Marnus Labuschagne to be lucky at times.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good thing. Moving on, there is one stat that I actually want to mention, and I'll plug it on the screen. With that knock, Virat Kohli actually has become the leading run scorer for India in ICC white ball tournaments. He's gone past Sachin Tendulkar, guys. He's played more T20 World Cups than ODI World Cups, but he's still averaging more. And actually, of course, he has a higher strike rate. Just Gurkirat here is a big Kohli fan, and so is Nikhil. But just a few words on Virat Kohli and his overall impact on Indian cricket.
Overall impact in terms of I think overall impact is there more in terms of the fitness that players have rather than I just say batting. You can have those numbers and everything, but I don't think it is both quantitatively and qualitatively. I don't think you can say that Virat's batting impact has been greater than Sachin's for the country, for the sport. And I have a huge I'm a very big Virat fan, and I have a huge respect for Sachin, but I feel these are facts. So I overall feel that his biggest impact would still be the culture of fitness that is there in the team now. And yeah, this numbers, also feel they're slightly unfair to Sachin because he's not played T20 World Cup, so very difficult to make that comparison. But I don't think anyone can deny that in white ball, major games, pressure situations, he's been as constant as they come. I
Hmm.
mean, people talk about Ben Stokes in that regard, so I don't think you can take away that from Virat. It's been a big career. It's been a 15-year-old career now, and I think had he got 100 today in three of the four World Cups that he's played, his first game would have been 100. 2011 versus Bangladesh, 2015 versus Pakistan, and this one. So, but didn't happen. But yeah, his like I said, is always been there in terms of pressure situations. You can't take that away from him.
Hmm. So actually, come to think of it, Kohli is averaging 64 and he has only two World Cup 100. That just exemplifies how consistent he has been in scoring, runs in day out. Moving
Yeah.
on, Nikhil Gurkar mentioned a point on Pat Cummins, and I actually feel that this game uh, uh, sort of exemplifies how making Pat Cummins the Australian captain backfired, because he was searching for bowling options when he himself is occupying a bowling spot. On his captaincy bit, do you think it was a blunder of sorts of not introducing Zampa a little earlier? Green came into bowl even ahead of Zampa. I mean, do you think that was a mistake on Cummins's part?
I also think not giving Stark an extended spell was a mistake, because you had to run through. That was the best chance, and Stark with a new ball is where he's best. And it's you don't expect Stark to come back with a old ball and feel that he will trouble India. But I think that is where again it's again one of those textbook plans. Okay, these are our plans prior to the game, and this is what we will go with. And that is something that you see with Cummins very often. Even in the Ashes, there were moments where you felt that he's very reactive as opposed to being very, very proactive. So again, with Zampa, maybe they had a very specific plan that no, let the ball get older and then let it get scuffed up. But my again point is you are leaving too much to chances. You're not giving yourself and that bowler the best enough chance. And the fact that he himself also has to use very himself very sparingly, or sometimes you don't feel what's the strength of Cummins, the ODI bowler, because you feel he can't bowl at the end. You have Stark and Hazelwood to bowl with a new ball. So does Cummins has to bowl with a new ball? Is that why you can't give them a longer spell? So I think that's where I feel sometimes Cummins gets lost in terms of trying to manage all of that and finding his own role as an attacking ODI bowler. Because and
Mm.
today is also the day where they missed Senegal. You saw the purchase that Indian spinners got. Zampa was tight, but they did not have anybody else. And I'm actually very surprised that they did not even go to Marnus. I'm not saying you would have given him 4 or 5 hour spell, but at least an over or two to just see if there is something for him. And the rate was never in a question when once Zampa got it for so many runs in his first few overs, you could have still tried. So I just
Mm.
feel teams are just too at times rigid in terms of this is where I will stick to it. And even in terms of tactics, I felt that there is a lot to do with Cummins.
Hmm. Guys, there are 50 of you watching, so please like the stream.
Like,
I, I,
yeah.
I mean, now I'm bored of hearing myself
Okay.
actually saying this out loud. But yeah,
If
please give it.
if there are Kohli fans watching, each like contributes to more of his international career hundreds. Please
Yeah.
do it. Please.
Hey,
Oh my
and
God.
just to add, no, just to add on the question that Somesh asked about Virat and his impact, I feel Virat as an ODI batter, he's given you the perfect template to ace ODI chases. Before this, you haven't had too many people who have given you the exact idea or a template of sorts that you can execute with your own
Hmm.
skill set, with your own type of shots that you have. And that's, again, as you said, just two World Cup hundreds. But you look at that record, it's telling you he's getting starts, he's getting consistent starts, and that is something that many people can take a leaf out of that. Okay, this is how maybe we can pace our innings. You can go at different rate, you can do what you can play all your shots, but to get a guy like him to, if you're looking at somebody like him as an idol for accelerating anchor, that's there is no better example than him.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, this was a game. I personally thought that यार आज कोहली की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, but जब भी ऐसा सोचता हूँ, ऐसा होता ही नहीं है. पता नहीं
You,
क्यों.
it's good that Avnish is not on the show.
Yeah, Jay saying I like this video twice. भाई 2 बार like मत कर, unlike हो जाएगी वापस से यार. Yeah, so my next question, I mean, I want Gurkirat's opinion on this because I already know what Nikhil feels. But Gurkirat, we have seen time and time again that India actually, in some situations when the ball is moving, uh, are two down pretty quickly. It can be down to poor shot choice of shot, some early tentativeness, some pressure, or quality bowling. But it has happened often. Do you think a team like India, who basically have all the problems solved already, they have options for everything? Do you think it's time for them to sort of have a free wicket sort of pinch hitter batter who can come in a situation like this and maybe try to sort of break the shackles, so to speak?
I've always been open to such ideas, and I remember there was this the second Test match in Bangladesh in December last year, where I had said that India could actually hold back Shreyas Iyer and send Umesh Yadav to try and
Yeah.
hit the off spinners, and see how it works out. I got a lot of flack for that, but
That's why I'm laughing. I remember what happened after
yeah,
that.
but see, I feel it's no different from sending a night watchman.
Yeah.
If the ball's really swinging it around, then you could. But I feel in that regard, India do have someone like Jadeja who can actually play swing well. Because what I feel is that when it comes to playing the ball on the fourth stump, He's really one of the better batters in terms of keeping his wicket safe. We've seen that enough in test matches, because when the ball's swinging, the best thing that I like about Jadeja, the batter, is he will only commit to the first line. He will not go fetching for. You would rarely see Jadeja get out caught behind in test matches, because he doesn't go fetching for the second line. And I think the same thing troubles him when it comes to playing spin, because when you're playing spin, you have to account for the second line, because there's no other option. So in situations like these, India can look at that, but I feel today was more of a case of poor shot selection than great bowling. You look at Kishan's shot, you look at Iyer's shot. I think both of them just got out trying to impose themselves. I mean, you really don't expect that, and both feet went nowhere for both of them. As far as Rohit's concerned, I just think he played the wrong line, or maybe the ball came in too much. Could be one of those things. Not really sure.
I mean, let's be fair. Rohit was actually unplayable.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's either one of the two. Maybe he
Yeah.
committed to the wrong line, or the ball came in too much. I wasn't really sure. So yeah, because you don't. Again, if Rohit was struggling so much against swing, then he wouldn't have become the test match opener that he has become. But I don't think overall that today was more down to great bowling. I just think it was just down to poor shot selection, especially from Shreyas and Kishan.
Yeah, Pranav Anand agreeing with us in comments. Guys, we also did something different on Twitter today. We started a segment called askCDC. We actually have a question here. I'll just pop that up right now. Doit, if I'm pronouncing the name correct, is asking, is chasing a better option now that Dew's making an impact on teams bowling second? This was clearly a dry pitch, but it helped spinners more in the first innings. Maybe Nikhil, if you would like to take a stab at it.
Yeah, I think this is something we talked about in the break as well. That if this continues to be the case, it's going to be very, very hard to get pacing your first innings right, because you are really going to be taking a guess at most times at what is going to be enough, and how do you pace your innings then? Because if conditions are going to change so much that, like we saw even in the opener at Ahmedabad, that it really got very good to bat on. So how are you then going to combat that? So, but again, it's an uncontrollable in terms of you can't really control the toss. Maybe yes, you can plan to chase, but maybe if you're batting first, you'll probably just want to stay proactive and not say have the period of plays like Smith and Marnus had, or say the period of play like Rahmat and Hazmatullah had in their innings, that you are trying to stay ahead. Because the moment you allow the opposition to get in, that's where things will get trickier. And I do feel credit to Australia that they still found a way to go from 140 for 7 to 200 against a different batting unit. Maybe against a unit with a better captain, maybe Australia would have pushed that team a bit more, and they could have even defended that score. But there is only so much that you can do if conditions are going to change. So you can do what you feel is suits your style of play, like how South Africa did. That Quinton and RVD, they both took times. There were phases when Quinton was going hard, and then RVD took over, and then Rashid took stand to Quinton stuff. But they never allowed the game to drift. They always, one of them was always going after the bowling, which is what helped Makram also come in and go after the bowling. So again, different conditions, but just the point is try and stay ahead of the game, so that at least even if not even if you don't have a lot of runs, you can still say that you did your best. You can't control if conditions are going to change completely.
Mm. Uh, we have Prasad in comments, who, by the way, is saying that this is his first question. I hope, Prasad, you ask many more, and please like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Gurgat, maybe you can take this one. Why did finger spinners get more spin than wristies on pitch like this?
बच गया अभी बच गया This is the luck this is the kind of luck Kohli had today. I think it's just down to the control. Usually you will find finger spinners will get more control, or will have more control than wrist spinners. It's just the nature of the skill set. And when there is turn on offer from the pitch, they're able to land on those spots a lot more. With wrist spinners, that doesn't happen, and sometimes on these pitches it also becomes very important to control the turn. You might turn it turn it fair, quite fair. But if it's going to miss the bat, miss the edge, or miss the stumps, it's not going to give you any benefit. So I feel sometimes wrist spinners are also aware of this fact that they need to probably turn it only a little bit and not enough, because on a flat deck we see wrist spinners get more turn, and it is needed on those pitches. So I feel it's a combination of the greater control that finger spin brings, and at the same time wrist spinners being aware that they only need to turn it just enough and not too much that they lose control or the ball just keeps missing the stumps.
All right, there you go, Prasad. As comprehensive an answer as you could have asked for. Uh, Before we wrap up, guys, just a couple of thoughts, a couple of questions rather. One is now all teams have actually played a game each. This is what the points table looks like. So New Zealand, after that thumping win, are on top. South Africa, even after scoring the highest total ever in a World Cup, are still at the second spot, but they'll take that. India, oh, I mean, yeah, take it. Not a lot added in terms of NRR, but yeah, I mean, any big takeaways after round one, or I mean, we wait and watch wala period hai.
Yeah, I think you'll still have to wait and watch because most of the teams will play different teams in very, very different conditions. So, like Australia are going to play 2 games in Lucknow. So, very keen to see how that plays out. Because then, after a while, things will start to get tighter in terms of okay, now how do we even recover from that heavy loss that we had? Like, say, for England in Dharamshala next.
Hmm.
If the venue continues to aid spin, so it could be fun to keep track of
Yeah.
how teams are going.
Yeah, talking about Dharamshala, I mean, we heard the news earlier today that the games won't be moving. The
Yeah.
independent observers or reviewers were happy with the outfield. I must add the word emphasis on the word independent there. I have a last question. I liked one of the comments, so I'll just plug that in. Hopefully, I'm able to find it. Give me a moment.
Also, there's a lot of chatter about something Rohit said. So now I want to check what Rohit said after the game.
Yeah, I think it was about playing for picking players for conditions. But I want to take this one, guys. Uh, we started with this. It would be a good note to end with this. Your thoughts about it, guys? Rahul going for 100 and then feeling sad after hitting a six.
See,
So,
when the game was won, so I think when the game is won, you can then go for the milestones, and whatever said and done, the 100 would have made it far more memorable. It's still a great knock. It's still a great knock. Doesn't take anything away from it, but just that three-figure mark makes it far more memorable, because eventually what happens is, see, if 10 or 15 years down the line, someone who's not watched KL Rahul bat, and if KL Rahul, like, thankfully for KL that he has one World Cup 100 which he hit versus Sri Lanka in the last World Cup, but say if KL doesn't hit any other World Cup 100, what happens is, 10 or 15 years down the line, someone can just come up and post on Twitter, KL has only one World Cup 100, hasn't done anything, and that 100 was also against Sri Lanka, who wasn't the greatest team at that point of time. So it's just, मतलब वो सोने पे सुहागा वाली बात है. It's
mm,
as simple as that. So I am okay with, after winning the game, if players prioritize that milestone. And in this case, it was, if anything, it was actually finishing the game quicker, because had it gone on longer,
yeah,
he wouldn't have had the chance. But yeah, what I have a problem with is what happened in that Indore ODI. That I don't like to see.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can't agree more, Nikhil. Anything to add, or are you going to plug your most favorite statement?
No, I just feel that it's time to change the system. And what you say is what will reflect in what people will say. If you go on and then depend and also ask the viewer about how many hundreds he got, maybe you both are looking at it the wrong way.
Mm,
So, but again, it's part of the system. As long as the system encourages that, people will go after it. So you can't blame the people to go after it. Maybe
mm.
we can start that conversation that it's okay he didn't get the 100. Some 97s are better than 100. So if the guy
Well,
wants to check the scorecard, he can go and check the highlights. That's a better way to know more about the game.
Yeah, and actually, all great cricket stories are outside the scorecard. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a good note to end there. We are facing a few, I mean, not facing. We have been asked a few comments around India's composition for the next game. But guys, like I've been harping upon, we'll be here every day, not just India games, but all other games. Like tomorrow morning, we'll be talking with equal intensity about when New Zealand are about to face Netherlands. So just join us. Maybe your Indian question related to India will take up when we are previewing India's next game. But meanwhile, I think this was a good game, good start for India. Good to get a win against a quality opposition like Australia,
Yeah.
and good to get a win even when your openers are sort of making it a habit of scoring in binaries in World Cup games. Hopefully that that changes. With that, I mean, good night, good Kirat, good night, Nikhil. Thanks everyone who joined. Like I've been
Yep.
saying, please like the stream, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1:25. Tomorrow is a single header. Yeah, 1:25. So see you guys then. Good night.
Cheers.